What is going on, guys? Welcome into this episode of Southeastern 16. I'm here with my co-host Jay Greeson. We're talking some college football today. If you've been online, really, if you've seen any news regarding college football whatsoever, the big story has been Nico Iamaleava's contract negotiations ongoing at Tennessee. There's a lot of mix-up and turmoil, to say the least, happening. Jay, I'll let you give me your thoughts and break it down if you can.
Well, here's what we know. Nico's daddy has Herm Edwards is a brilliant man, former NFL coach. He's on ESPN. He's got a great catchphrase, and it's mainly for young athletes. His simple message is, "Don't hit send. Just don't hit send. Whether it's a text message, whether it's an X post, just don't hit send because." In dealing in the written word, it's real difficult sometimes that tone and intent and sarcasm or reflection, all of it falls on deaf eyes because eyes are deaf. So that's one of the kind of the genesis of how big of a mushroom cloud this has turned out with Tennessee's $8 million man. Nico Iamaleava was the number one quarterback in America coming out of high school out of California. Tennessee, I mean, don't get me wrong, Josh Heupel's a quarterback whisperer. He gets great production from quarterbacks, whether they've got 5 stars or whether they've got 5 minutes left in a college career. I mean, he was an overachiever as a college player. So Tennessee being in on any quarterback, it was as long as Josh Heupel is in the 865, is never going to surprise me. But they went from being a fringe option for Nico Iamaleava to being lock, stock, and barrel, his destination. And then about 2 or 3 months after that whole recruiting process, The Athletic comes out with a report that an unnamed 5-star quarterback signed what would then have been a record-setting NIL deal valued at $8 million. And I can remember reading that story and everybody put two and two together that it was Nico. And the conversation I always had about that was I thought Tennessee did some good things in that deal because he only got certain amounts if he left after a freshman year. He had to get through 3 years in Knoxville, which is all you can really hope for from superstars in this day and age, about tenures in college towns, because everybody's looking to get to the professional level just about as quickly as they can, and it takes 3 years in football. So now, going into that third year, Nico's daddy and apparently Nico's camp want to renegotiate the terms. Now, on its face, we always blame players, whether professional or college, and side with management. Nobody ever begrudges coaches getting raises, GMs getting raises when teams have good seasons. And we're a little more understanding to NFL players because the clock is ticking professionally on how much money they can make. So they hold out. And that's the story I think that is kind of mushroom clouded, Alfred. That's the background of what I have. And I'm curious to hear you being inside a lot of the Tennessee chat rooms and what the fans may be saying. But that's kind of the basis. And then, of course, it has really spiraled with Pete Thamel reporting this morning that Nico missed the latest Tennessee spring practice. And that happens in the NFL a lot. I don't recall a whole lot of QB1s holding out in the middle of spring.
Well, it can happen in college too. The kicker to it is coaches usually know about it. The Tennessee coaches did not know about it, which was the real big surprise here, which leads to, and I agree with you here, this is some kind of holdout that is happening. That is my speculation on the matter. Who knows? But that's kind of what's happening. And it's just, I think this is the first time we've seen it, thrown in our face in this magnitude of it happening. Because Tennessee has done this offseason already. I mean, they renegotiated Boot Carter's deal, Ricky Gibson's deal. Now it's the star starting quarterback. And so everyone hears about it.
Well,
right. And I mean, this all started again. I love what you said about his dad if this, if renegotiating is what is happening, a good option for him and Nico's camp could have been stay quiet. You know what I mean? You don't have to say anything out to the public about it. That's fine. Keep it to yourselves. There were friends of the family saying, that they were happy with the current deal as is. So there's clearly some sort of disconnect here. And it's just spiraled out of control between, Pete Nakos reporting it and then Nico's dad jumping in. And then the practice news this morning, it's grown to this whole other level, and it's become really the big story of the day in college sports, even with college baseball happening and stuff. Um, I don't there's no need, I really think, to panic right now. If you're Tennessee, I know this is just kind of shocking that it's happening, but of course the new transfer portal window is opening on the 16th, so that's just something to monitor. And I'm sure Nico's exercising options, ahead of that. But at the same time, this Tennessee, NIL room knows that this is, your guy you kind of really want to and have to roll with heading into the season to find the same sort of success. And they're going to do all they can to keep him. But yeah, it's just shocking. And it's reflective of a bigger kind of picture of what college sports has become. And it's just so surprising, utterly shocking. I think another part of it is, I don't, Jay, you might have seen this. Bryce Underwood at Michigan got allegedly $10.5 million in his NIL deal. He hasn't even taken a snap in a game yet. So I'm sure maybe Nico's camp is like, hey, look at this guy, this kid at Michigan. He's getting this. Our kid led you guys to the college football playoff. Let's renegotiate a little bit. And with this day and age of college sports, it's kind of rightfully so, but at the same time, it's a big shock to a lot of people. And I think that's why it's kind of spiraled into this whole sort of massive news story.
Well, and massive in a couple of directions. And you alluded to something that I think merits a little further vetting. You referenced that the portal reopens. When did you say?
The 16th.
Okay. So that's late next week.
Right.
Also, sometime next week, the House versus NCAA lawsuit is on track to potentially be settled. It almost was settled this past Monday. And what that is going to do in a lot of ways is it's going to set up a finite amount of money that schools pay athletes. Now, bigger programs will have third arm initiatives providing NIL support. But if you're going to negotiate with the school, you're going to need, there's a ticking clock to when this House settlement comes in, because that's going to have a whole lot of added layers of regulations that I don't think a lot of the athletes are going to like, because it theoretically is going to put a salary cap across college sports, and none of the athletes got to negotiate this. So that adds to the ticking clock. And I'll go you another step. If I had to describe Nico's career from what we may have expected, I would say it's a little bit underachieving at this point. So in that regard, if you think he may or may not have as high of NFL ceiling as you once did, like we talk about with basketball players, like we talk about with baseball players, you've got a chance, as opposed to being a fourth round pick as a quarterback, to make more money in Knoxville than you would in Nashville or Arizona or Tampa Bay. And remember, Tennessee's got the top rated quarterback in the 2026 class too. So if you don't renegotiate now and this year does not go well, ain't nobody guaranteeing you a job. Has the Iamaleava camp mishandled this? Without question. Mm-hmm. It has been butchered from toenails to hair tips. But you've got to understand, in the modern age of college sports, this is the world we live in. This is the realm. When the power pendulum swung, players now we're going to have to look at them at the same prism that we look at in terms of Josh Heupel expected to raise leading Tennessee to the college football playoff, as well he should. But right now, Nico's negotiating point may never be greater than after his rookie contract expires if he goes to the NFL and succeeds. Because who's going to play quarterback in Knoxville next year if he doesn't?
As of right now, it'd be Merklinger, more than likely. And I'm sure, he's shown some promises and practices and stuff, but, it would be foolish for anyone to say they'd prefer him over Nico Iamaleava, just, straight up honesty, even with maybe a middle of the road kind of season he had, not up to expectations. I mean, you give him an offseason and who knows what can happen the very next year. It's been out of control and mishandled on a multitude of levels, and it's all because of what you said at the beginning, hitting send. You know what I mean? It's hitting send, because if the renegotiating part is true, that is totally fine. Tennessee has done this multiple times already this offseason with players and have handled it well with the guys I named earlier. It's just the fact that it's your starting quarterback who has Heisman potential attached to his name that's made it, a mushroom cloud is what you say. And that's what it's become. So yeah. And it's obviously there's been a lot more vocalness to it that has led to this point. And, I think people owe Pete Nakos an apology at On3 Sports for what the names they've called him and whatnot, because it's been quite, a tumultuous time for him, I'm sure. And he probably doesn't appreciate that. On3 probably doesn't appreciate that after the good reporting they always do for college football. So yeah, it's different. It's the world we live in. And there's just a lot of deadlines and hearings coming up that play a part into what is going on. Because trust me, for a quarterback talent like this, if Tennessee doesn't take advantage, there's going to be another big NIL school out there that will. So it's up to the ball's in Tennessee's court at this point to get this done. And, based on what I know and what I can infer, they're going to do all they can to get it done because, well, it's the very wise thing to do.
It is in practicality. I don't disagree with you that Nico Iamaleava is unbelievably valuable to the machine, the money-making machine, the ATM that is Tennessee football. He's more eyeballs. He's more expectations. He's more merchandise. And I know, being an Auburn graduate, the roller coaster that has been Auburn football since Cam Newton left, when your football team struggles mightily, and Auburn has had a couple of those years, the entire community suffers, and not just the athletic department. The people who sell T-shirts, the people who make their Christmas money or make their annual difference between losing money and making money, and small business owners in Auburn, Alabama, depend on those 8 Saturdays of fall. And if you don't have your QB1, it's a ripple effect that affects everybody. So that's why I agree with you that Tennessee should be exploring as many options as possible to get this done practically, especially in a football way, especially in an economic way. Conversely, when you negotiate at the point of a bayonet, you're opening up that entire locker room to gauge their value, either publicly or privately. And maybe they're already doing that. And maybe part of the modern day era of college sports is having to have those hard conversations of, here's how much you're going to get, and it ain't going to be a penny more. I can remember last year at the beginning of fall practice, Mike Gundy made headlines in Stillwater when he told his team, you guys have got to shut up about NIL. And I know we're paying y'all, but let's spend the next 3 months playing football and not talking about our checkbooks. And because he said he was dealing with as many calls from players' agents as he was Oklahoma State beat writers. And I can only imagine. It's another part of this is maybe the most important guy in a football program that's not out there on the field in a helmet on Sunday is the head coach. And you can't overpay a good head coach. Ask Alabama and Nick Saban. He was the highest head coach for almost 2 decades, and he was still a steal. But the next highest paid guy came with Kalen DeBoer or the next most important guy is that general manager. And it used to be a director of football ops, and that was a guy who held your itinerary and gave you your speech at rubber chicken booster dinners that Josh Heupel would have to give in Chattanooga or in Cookeville. And okay, that guy made $150,000 and did his part. Now those people will make $1 million. And a big part of their job, look what Bill Belichick brought to Carolina with him. He brought Mike Lombardi, a guy who has former NFL GM experience, to manage the roster, manage the portal, and manage how much these kids are getting paid. Because coaching football is hard enough. Trying to cover up all the previous NIL payments that were technically not legal or not allowed by the NCAA, because that went on too. It just was $100 handshakes, and everybody in Tuscaloosa drove a Dodge, and everybody in Auburn got all the yellow wood they could ever need. And I mean, it is what it is. But now that it's considered allowable and it's come out of the shadows, everybody's got their hand out, and the schools and the programs have got to figure out a way to control it. So the GMs moving forward are going to be some powerful dudes at major college football programs.
It's going to be extra vital, too, if this settlement leads to a salary cap that you speak of, because then you really have to find a way to manage how much each player gets, because that's going to become more important than ever. So,
I don't know how they can cap what these kids can get paid unless you are going to A, admit they're employees, and B, allow them a seat at the negotiating table. And right now, they're neither. So, I mean, it almost makes the House versus the NCAA settlement, which is in excess of, is close to $3 billion. It almost makes it invalid before it even gets enacted.
Right. Well, my final thought on Nico's specific situation, Jay, I'll let you get one as well, because obviously this, it's only one thing we're talking about, but nonetheless, it's just such a massive story. My final thought on that is this. This has just happened in the modern day social media world where it's blown out of the water. Part of that is because of family members making it, an ordeal that it probably didn't have to be, and that sort of thing. Like I said, Tennessee has done this already in a smaller way with other players on the team when it comes to renegotiating their NIL deals. And I feel like this is the same thing. The reason I have for him not showing up at practice today, I guess on Friday, is a holdout of sorts that we see a lot in the NFL, pretty much from every team. So that's it's a newer thing to college sports. It's wild to see. I mean, this was not a thing before COVID, like with college sports, you never saw this happen with players not practicing for some unknown reason. But I really think that's what this is. Again, if Tennessee is wise, and I think they will be, and they have the NIL space for it, they will make sure this gets done to have their Heisman potential quarterback ready for next year. But nonetheless, keep an eye out on it for all you viewers out there. This is probably going to get settled, I would imagine, as soon as possible if Tennessee wants to handle it the right way. But like I said, my final word on it is it's just a renegotiation that just got blown way out of proportion because of the name Nico Iamaleava and because of family members that really didn't have to make it that way. So I wouldn't panic yet, Tennessee fans. Just keep your heads on straight, and we'll see what happens.
Let's play a little true or false on a Friday. True or false, Nico takes a first snap for Tennessee this football season.
I hope for Tennessee fans this age as well. True.
Okay. True or false, this as publicly, and I concur poorly that this has been handled, makes Nico the most in the most pressure-packed scenario to start college football next year.
Also true.
True or false, if this is the most public, it far and away won't be the last of these type of back and forth with these five-star kids. I mean, what do you think, Lenore? How interested do you think Lenore Sellers is watching this in Columbia, South Carolina? How interested is Gunnar Stockton in Athens, Georgia? I mean, pick a place. How interested is Garrett Nussmeier in Red Stick? Pick a big time place that truly counts on college football, and everybody's watching this, and the programs are watching it too, because I mean, Tennessee's going to have to figure out a way to both make Nico happy and not look like it bent the knee, to steal a Game of Thrones reference. Because if they give the store away, Katie bar the door. I mean, hey, here's betting Greg Sankeyleg is paying full and great attention to this on what it could mean across the conference.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Other names, DJ Lagway at Florida. I know they have not been good with NIL in the past, but Kate Klubnik at Clemson, very valuable quarterback to a very valuable college football place. And we'll see how that goes.
I appreciate your time, Alfred. And I just, this has your text message to our little band of yahoos. It's been a big talking point where I am too, and it's been referenced multiple times on my Monday through Friday morning column at Times Free Press, and it's a whole anything, just about everything from either Trump and tariffs to Nico is really, and Masters is stealing the conversation in the circles I operate in.
Very much so. We felt like we had to address it here. Obviously, biggest college sports story right now. Again, Tennessee fans, we'll see where this ends up. My guess is it will go somewhere soon based on what happened today and really what happened in the days prior to this. So from Jay Greeson, from Alfred Ezman, you have been watching Southeastern 16.